Is your child afraid of germs? Is it totally consuming their life? Are they always thinking about what they're touching and if they're going to get sick? There are things that parents can do. Let's talk about it. For starters, before I even tell you how to handle this, if your child's not in therapy already, you should consider it. Because if your child's afraid of germs, they most likely have some sort of anxiety and/or OCD. So as a parent, what can you do to help your child? Let's talk about that. It's important before you even get started that your child knows how to defeat anxiety or OCD. It's also helpful if they understand how anxiety and OCD work. And I will leave links below on other videos I've done that help you explain that to your child. But for germs, when kids come into my practice, I do like to reframe their fears, even though their fears are irrational and they know their fears are irrational. You always want to start off in a rational place, teaching kids some rational, what I call green thoughts. And so this is what I say to them. Germs are important. We don't want to get rid of germs because even though you have this idea that germs get you sick, germs also help train our fighters. So I tell kids, in our body we have fighters, white blood cells, and they help us stay healthy. That's what helps fight off germs. So when our fighters get a little germ in our body, the germ starts to attack our fighters, but it's so weak, and our fighters learn the germ's moves. And so they're like, hi-ya! Oh, that's how that germ wants to fight. And they study the germ and they learn how to fight that germ. And so when the germ comes back with all of his buddies and is like, hey, I got my pals here and we're gonna take you down, your fighters are like, whatever, we've already learned all your moves and we've got this. And they conquer the germs. Now, when you are afraid of germs, you take away that opportunity for your fighters to learn how to study the germs and how to defeat the germs. So then when a whole pack of germs come and like, hey, we're gonna take you down, guess what happens? They do. And you tend to get sick more often because you're not letting your fighters learn from the germs around you. And that's not good. I also tell kids, and this is gonna totally sound weird and counterintuitive, but I tell them, guess what? Germs are everywhere. You completely cannot avoid them because they're not just with everything around you. They're in the air. They're in the air that we breathe. There's airborne germs. And so you might be avoiding touching things or washing your hands all the time, but guess what? It's in the air and on the things that we touch because it helps our fighters and it helps our immune system get stronger. And so you don't want to strip that away. Once your kids are on board with the rational explanation of germs and they intellectually understand the importance of them, that's not going to really completely help their anxiety or OCD. Because remember, we talked about anxiety and OCD, they're irrational. So it's helpful for them to have these green thoughts to reframe their thinking, but you have to take it one step further. And that is where exposure exercises come in. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should watch my video on ERP, Exposure Response Prevention, which is highly effective. And it's when you teach kids to lean into their anxiety or their OCD and do the opposite. Teach your kids that the more they give into their anxiety or the more they give into their OCD, the worse it's going to get. Because anxiety and OCD is never full. It's never satiated. It always wants you to do more and more avoiding. And so you want to teach your kids that they want to do the opposite of what their anxiety or OCD tells them to do. And so if their anxiety is telling them to avoid germs or to not touch that door handle or to wash their hands for an excessive amount of time, they want to do the opposite. Now you can start off doing things very small. So find the least challenging thing for your child, whether that is maybe touching a doorknob or touching a counter and then touching their face, whatever it is to your child. It's going to look different for every kid. But make a list from most difficult to least difficult and start tackling it from the bottom up. I always find that offering prizes or incentives are really helpful because if you're super scared, you're not going to really want to do something that completely petrifies you. But if you add a bonus incentive and you talk about these exposure challenges as crushing their anxiety or crushing their OCD, they're going to be a little bit more on board. Fear of germs and anxiety and OCD can be so debilitating, so I hope this gives you a little bit of information to jumpstart the help at home. Be sure to stop by every Thursday because there'll be a new video, or better yet, why not even just subscribe? If you're liking my videos, don't forget to hit like, and until next time, I hope you find the sparkle in every day. Take care.